live once again here on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining, as this is recapping the second round of the 153rd Open Championship. The full field has just been completed. I know the broadcast went off the air about an hour and a half ago, actually, but I wanted to wait until the full field was set. Some cut line drama that took place this afternoon, and cut actually did move. It was sitting at around 2 over, but it's actually 1 over. That's where the cut line is. We'll dive into that. We'll talk about Scottie Scheffler, who is the 36-hole leader after the first 2 days of play. Had himself an outstanding day today, had some pretty interesting quotes, and had to deal with the Shane Lowry penalty that occurred on the back nine on the 12th hole for Lowry. It was deemed that he had moved his ball. And another thing that wasn't broadcast went off early before that penalty was finalized. And yes, indeed, Shane Lowry did get the 2-stroke penalty if you haven't seen that yet. So Lowry drops a couple of spots back in the Open, but he still did make the cut. So there's at least that for Lowry. He will be playing the weekend. It didn't affect him. He didn't end up affecting the cut line, but a couple of players behind him did. Just posting this to our social media. And there we go. So play has concluded. We've got a pretty stacked leaderboard going into the third round, which will take place tomorrow. Tee times are set. We'll go over those as well. We'll talk about guys that made the cut, a couple of disappointments of guys that missed the cut, a couple of good stats out there about players for all 4 majors that have made the cut. And then also want to get into some quotes. Really, a lot of good quotes today from the Open Championship. But let's start with going over the leaderboard. It is world number 1. Scottie Scheffler shot 64 today, 7 under par, had 1 blemish on the scorecard. That came at 11. Other than that, a near picture perfect round, gained almost 4 strokes putting. He has the outright 36-hole lead by 1 shot over Matt Fitzpatrick, who played another good round of golf today. He shot 66, birdied 4 holes in a row on the back nine, did Fitzpatrick, and he is sitting in second, just 1 shot behind Scheffler. Brian Harman, 2023 Open champion, and Haotong Li still hanging around. Those two are sitting at 8 under. Brian Harman shot a bogey-free 65. Haotong Li going with another 4 under round, shooting 67. Rasmus Højgaard, Tyrrell Hatton, Robert McIntyre, Harris English, and Chris Gotterup are all tied for 5th at 5 under. Tony Finau and Nicolai Højgaard are tied for 10th at 4 under. Some other notable names: Keegan Bradley, Rory McIlroy, Lee Westwood, and Sam Burns, part of the group, tied for 12th at 3 under. You've got Justin Rose, Ludwig Oberg at 2 under, tied for 17th. Same with Xander Schauffele, who is there. Riggs Johnston, who is from Montana. He had a great round today, shot 66 to bump himself into a tie for 17th, also at 2 under. Ricky Fowler is at 1 under. Justin Thomas makes the cut. He's at 1 under. Tommy Fleetwood plays himself into the weekend at 1 under as well. You've got Lucas Glover there too. Let's see, a couple of guys at even par: Jordan Spieth, Victor Hovland, Phil Mickelson, Dustin Johnson, JJ Spawn, John Rahm. Shane Lowry, after that penalty, dropped him down from 2 under to even par. Wyndham Clark makes the cut, had to really clutch it up today, shot 66 to make the cut, so the lockers are safe at Royal Portrush. How about Francesco Molinari makes the cut on the number at 1 over, the 2018 Open champ. Sergio Garcia, he makes the cut. Andrew Novak, who's had a pretty good season on the PGA Tour, he's going to be playing the weekend. And Justin Leonard, old man Justin Leonard, rumbling around out there. He makes the cut right on the number at 1 over. Tristan Lawrence from last year nearly won the Open Championship a year ago. He'll be playing on the weekend again. Perhaps one of the rounds of the day, Bryson DeChambeau goes bananas on the back nine. Birdies 12, 13, 14, and 17 to make the cut. Shoots 65 after not having a birdie at all yesterday. Saved them all for today. Makes the cut right on the number. And I mean, had Scheffler not shot 64 today, I mean, you could make an argument that DeChambeau had the best round out of anyone today. So really good stuff from him. Hideki Matsuyama, Sepp Straka, they make the cut at 1 over. We'll go over some guys that missed the cut later on. Okay, where do we begin? I think we got to start things off with Scottie Scheffler, a pair of 32s today. As I mentioned, only one bogey today, 7 under par. And the putter, we talked about this yesterday as far as his putter goes. You know, that's going to win him championships, majors. It's going to be the putter. He almost never hits a bad shot, especially with an iron. He's so precise, and he talked about it yesterday, not being precise off the tee. Or in his mind, he felt like he was precise off the tee. Some people didn't, because you look at the driving accuracy. I think it was only 3 fairways he hit yesterday. Today he hits 8. But it's, where are you? Are you way off the fairway, or are you maybe half a foot off the fairway? Today he hits 5 more fairways, and he ends up going, what was it? I think he shot 3 under yesterday, so he improves by 4 strokes today by hitting just 5 more fairways, and he's still, that's only 8 of 14. He's hit 11 fairways thus far, and he's at 10 under. That's just a scary thought if you're the rest of the field. Particularly, I would say anybody below 5 under. When you look at that, what Scottie's done already, you're going, oh man, we might be in trouble. So Scheffler, he seems to have taken firm control of this championship, eerily similar to what he did at the PGA Championship 2 months ago, where he's just taking full control, and he's going to make the rest of the field have to play catch up, which is what you absolutely don't want to do with a guy like Scottie Scheffler in command of this championship. So great job from Scottie Scheffler. It's obviously anything can happen, right? And you never know what's going to happen on the weekend of a major, especially at the Open Championship. But man, what Scottie Scheffler's doing right now, it's pretty impressive. And it's why I said after the PGA Championship, I think he's probably, I think I categorize it as he's probably the number one guy to, you know, be the next guy to get the Grand Slam, a career Grand Slam. Now it's, I said, I think he ends with 7. It almost just seems like it's a matter of when is he going to get the career Grand Slam? Will it be next year at the U.S. Open? He still obviously has to close this one out. But it feels inevitable that Scheffler is, I mean, barring something completely crazy, derailing his career, he's going to be in this spot many, many times. And that's why I put it at 7, just because it's so hard to win all of these majors. Eventually there's going to be someone else who catches up, whoever it is that's going to rise into superstardom and challenge you. But I think Scheffler is right there in the mix to perhaps be that guy who ends up winning. Like I said, I think 7's the number for him, and I think he gets the career Grand Slam. The U.S. Open, I mean, the thing with Scheffler is you look at all these courses, they all seem to set up for him. And he's already played Augusta so well. He plays all these U.S. Open courses so well. PGA Championship courses, yeah, I mean, they're not as difficult as the other 3 majors. And then the Open, he's starting to figure it out. And then all these courses on the PGA Tour, they fit right up his alley. Man, it's a thing of beauty to watch, and we could be watching history unfold right in front of us, and that's a really unique spot to be in, especially in golf where it's so fickle and it's so, you just don't know what's going to happen. We said this about Jordan Spieth. It took Rory McIlroy 11 years to win another major. It felt like it was inevitable Tiger would catch Jack. It just seems like the game catches up to you at some point. And right now, the game hasn't caught up to Scottie Scheffler. And it's really impressive to see what he's doing right now. Do want to talk a little bit about what happened with Shane Lowry. So if you didn't see it on the 12th hole today, Lowry went to take a practice swing, and he was a few inches to the left of his ball, takes the practice swing, and his ball, it does move. You can see it on camera. It moves slightly back. And then he ends up hitting it. Well, hit it from the wrong spot. That's a 2-stroke penalty. They informed him on the 15th hole, Lowry, that, hey, you're probably going to be assessed a 2-stroke penalty, just so you know. So Scheffler talked about this, and Lowry, I'll get to his quotes here in just a minute, but I wanted to talk about what Scottie Scheffler said, because this will go right into Shane Lowry. He says, so he was asked, it was a really long wait in scoring there, where you brought in to share your perspective on it, and what did he see? Scheffler now saying ultimately it's up to the player, and talked about how Shane was put in a very tough situation. And he goes on to say, one of the great things about the game of golf is you call penalties on yourself. Again, talks about how Shane was in a tough situation and he handled it well. He then says, it's frustrating for me as a competitor of his and a player to watch him kind of deal with that, because the last thing you want to be known in the game of golf is somebody who cheats. And then Shane Lowry goes on to talk about how he doesn't want to be called a cheater, pretty much. And he was talking about somewhere in his press conference, he's talking about how he doesn't want to go to social media and hear his name get dragged through the mud as a cheater. And it's interesting to hear these guys who have been playing at the highest level. They're major champions, and they're still concerned about the perception of being labeled a cheater or someone who cheats. And I think that goes a long way. And it again repurposes that thought of, it's so interesting to hear these guys talk post round. I mean, Shane Lowry could have easily been upset and frustrated and said, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to talk about this, or I'm not going to do media today. I'm too frustrated, because he didn't agree with the penalty. He is actually flat out asked, was the decision already made effectively before you even sat down? And his response was, I think they had their decision made. And he goes on also in a further question, I think they had it in their heads that the ball moved. I caused it to move. It's a 2-shot penalty. They only had one camera angle, which was zoomed in at the ball. They had none of me actually full length, which is which we were looking for and needed. And here's the part where he talks about the cheating aspect. He says, the last thing I want to do is sit there and argue and not take the penalty and then get slaughtered all over social media for being a cheat. So it's interesting to hear that perspective. I think that's the part that I really was, I guess, taken aback by, was, wow, it really means a lot to them to be labeled as truthful competitors. And even if he disagrees with whether the video or the ruling or whether it should be a 2-stroke penalty, perhaps it's a little strong. Maybe they should look at revising it to a 1-stroke penalty, especially with the technology of being able to zoom in on golf balls so clearly and being able to watch them roll back, half a dimple or whatever the case may be. But it's interesting that they're still wanting to avoid being a cheater at all costs. And we've seen the reputation of other professionals that are cheaters. And I'm just talking about golf. I mean, you can look at other sports too. There's pretty much every sport, there are guys that have cheated one way or another, and that sticks with you forever. That's like the first thing that people think of when they think of that name or that team, when any sort of cheating has been established with them. And so I guess it's refreshing to hear these guys, even at the very top, world number one and Shane Lowry, of Open champion, talk about the fear of being labeled a cheater, or even in the conversation of being a cheater, not even being labeled a cheater, just the fact that there's the chance they could be talked about as that, was really interesting perspective to hear from both of those guys. And it did affect Scheffler after the round, because him, Morikawa, and Lowry had to wait. Obviously, Lowry was trying to plead his case and scoring like, hey, I didn't deserve this 2-stroke penalty, but ultimately ended up getting it after what sounds like about 20 minutes of conversation. Matthew Fitzpatrick, second right now, one shot behind Scotty Scheffler. Another great round from Fitzy. Shot 67 yesterday, 66 today, birdie 10, 11, 12, 13. Did drop a shot on 14. Played a pretty up and down front nine too. But he's playing some great golf. We talked about yesterday how he, in his post-round presser, was talking about the Players being the low point of his season and perhaps maybe the career of Matt Fitzpatrick professionally. And he found something at the RBC Heritage, and the last month and a half, he's been playing really good golf, and he's starting to move his way up that European team leaderboard for points, trying to make it in probably as a captain's pick. As I said, I think he's going to have to take that route unless he wins either this week or probably 2 more times on the PGA Tour. I think that gets him onto the Ryder Cup team on points. However, the way how he's been playing, and if this continues over the next 3 months, well, 2 months, because it's crazy. We're only 2 months away from the Ryder Cup. Feels like it's longer. How do they say no to him? How does Captain Luke Donald keep him off the team? And he also had he had that lip out on 17. He very easily could be tied for the lead. And he talked about getting hot with the putter today. And let's see, he had a couple of interesting quotes. He was talking about pace of play. And so he was asked about his reputation of being a pretty fast player and the challenges of playing at the slower pace that it was out there, because pace of play has been a little bit of an issue. And he said that he thinks if he were playing worse, it would be more annoying, because his tendency is to get a bit fast when he's playing well. Now, to quote Fitzpatrick, he says, quote, "I do think it's ridiculous. The pace of play has been a combination of the way the golf course is, reachable par fives, all that normal stuff, similar to what we've seen on the PGA Tour. But it starts with the players as well, and starts with the rules officials. Obviously, we'd all like to be round in 4.5 hours, but that's the case. And it's 5 and whatever it was today. But that is what it is. So just accept that and try to stay focused as I can on my own game and play as best as I can." And then he was asked about how he would fix the pace of play, and said it's impossible to answer. And he is right with there being drivable par fives and drivable par fours. That's going to back things up naturally. But he thinks speeding up the players will help the situation. I certainly agree with that. I don't think these governing bodies want to stroke players in majors. I like, that's really hard to do. Now, could you put someone on the clock? I suppose you could. It's just, it's hard under these majors with so much on the line, whether it's legacy or money, to do that. it's hard, but at the same time, like we're coming close to 6-hour rounds out there. I mean, that's really slow. That's pretty brutal. And I know a lot of people were tracking Rory yesterday and his group, and I think there's like a 3-hole stretch they played in like 50 minutes, and they played like 7 holes in 2 hours. That's not good. But as far as Fitzpatrick goes, it's cool to see him back in contention. He talked about he's relishing and being in contention given to where he's been at in the last couple of years. Said there's nothing better than being in contention. Feels a little bit uncomfortable at the time, but that's what you're searching for. You want to feel that. It means you're doing something right for the most part. So it's unique to hear that perspective too of what does it feel like to be in contention, in the mix of an Open Championship, contending for, it would be his second major at a different major championship. And so good for Matt Fitzpatrick to get himself into the final pairing. So it's going to be him and Scotty Scheffler that will be teeing off in the final pairing. Also teeing off late, Brian Harman and Haotong Li. Those are going to be the penultimate pairing. Brian Harman, he shoots a bogey-free 65, 33 on the front, 32 on the back. Harman was first. They keep bringing up his hunting, which I don't understand why they keep talking about hunting with him. But he was asked about what is it about links golf that suits his eye, and he talked about how it forces you to be a bit more creative, and it's not an aerial attack. And then he says there's probably 10 types of clubs, irons, drivers, woods, that you can hit off the tee. There's different ways to attack the green. There's almost a hill that will kind of kill a shot coming into the green. And he just says that he enjoys the creativity and thinking your way around. You're not forced to hit certain shots, and you can do it your own way. And I think that is absolutely correct. And I talked about it yesterday when we were discussing some of the older guys that were putting some low numbers, the Phil Mickelsons, the Lee Westwoods, the Justin Leonards. You can use experience and creativity to get yourself around. And that's why we've seen guys like Greg Norman in the hunt in their 50s, and Tom Watson and Darren Clark won it in his 40s. And you can be creative, and you don't have to hit it 190 miles per hour. You don't need to have all of these wild numbers. You can just plot your way around, run it up if you need to, use, the Todd Hamilton strategy of chipping with the hybrid from around the green. There's so many different ways that you can play links golf, which is why it's so enjoyable to watch, and why it would be great as just a fan of golf if we had more of these events, because it probably would draw quite a crowd. I think a lot of people would welcome more links style courses just on the schedule for professional golf, whether it is the DP World Tour, LIV, PGA Tour, another tour that gets created that's that features more links golf. I don't know what the solution is, but this style of golf, it's so compelling. It's so intriguing to watch. And it's part of that is that artistry, that creativity. And it's where you get some of these guys that end up playing so well in the UK because they get to showcase that. And so Harman is in the mix. Who knows if he ends up winning this thing. I think he is absolutely a contender. I think Haotong Li is a contender too. Even though Haotong Li is not that well known because he's playing on the DP World Tour, but he was in the mix. Remember, we talked about this yesterday. 2017, he finished solo third. He talked about that today in his press conference. He talked about playing with Jon Rahm and Tiger in 2019. And let's see, there was a couple of interesting quotes that he had about today where I completely lost it. Let's see where can't remember exactly where it was, but he was just talking about, here we go. He was talking about playing up against the top players in the world. Do you feel intimidated or comfortable? And he said, I definitely want to be comfortable for sure. Will be a lot of pressure, but just have to find a way to deal with it. It's not the first time here, so hopefully make something happen on the weekend. And let's see. He was asked, he doesn't care what major he wants to win. He was asked if you could win one, would it be the Open, the Masters? Which would it be? And he says, I don't mind which one. I don't mind any major. But yeah, he's an interesting character. I think I think he might turn some heads and be in the mix over the weekend. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being one of these guys that we look at on the Wikipedia page a couple of years from now and go, oh yeah, I forgot he was a legit threat to win this thing. Again, which is crazy to think 8 years later, here he is back in the mix again. It's such a cool thing about golf. You just never know. So he will be teeing off with Brian Harman tomorrow. Rasmus Højgaard and Tyrrell Hatton, they will be the third to last group. They are at 5 under. I mean, look, they're both playing great golf. I think if you're at this 5 under group or lower, you've got to make up ground tomorrow. It's plain and simple. You have to. Yeah, I think you have to, at the bare minimum, shoot like 4, maybe 4 under is like the floor. You have to go at least 4 under, maybe even better, just to try and run stride for stride with Scheffler, because it doesn't seem like Scheffler's going to be stopped. He certainly can. But it's crazy. It still doesn't feel like he has his A game yet. Like, it doesn't feel like we've seen the best of Scottie Scheffler. So that's why I'm even questioning if 4 under would be enough, because it feels like Scottie could just kind of do what he did yesterday, just whack it around and get it at 68. Well, now he's sitting at 13 under. And I don't know. I think if you're at this 5 under group, you need to make a lot of hay tomorrow. I think Tyrrell Hatton probably is who I would think is the leader out of that mix. Robert McIntyre certainly is a great player, but he shot 5 under today. Can he follow that up again tomorrow? He'll probably he's got to be close to probably playing the weekend at 8 under. I would have to think 8 under at the bare minimum is what you would need to play the weekend if you're at 5 under. 4 and 3 under, you're going to have to play probably 10 under or better if you want a chance at perhaps a playoff. Harris English shot 1 under today. Chris Gotterup went nuts, had a pair of eagles en route to shooting a 65. He had a really great day putting. But yeah, you're just looking at this group at 5 under, and then at the pair at 4 under. Tony Finau, I think that's a surprise to see him in the top 10. Haven't heard a lot from him on the PGA Tour. Nikolai Højgaard, I'm still rooting for the Højgaards to play with each other on the weekend. I think that'd be a cool storyline to have the twins at the Open. Of course, they're from Europe, so means the Open Championship is very significant to the Europeans. It's significant to every golfer, but it's a little bit heightened in Europe. Man, that would be a really cool scene to see those guys go head to head in the final round. They won't be playing together tomorrow. And then, I think the only other guy that you can really look at below the top 4 is maybe Rory, as he has the capability to go super low. It's just, can he? Obviously not a great week not a great week, but not a bad week for Rory. He's going to have to shoot he'll need probably a 63 or 64 round at least one, if not a couple of rounds, or maybe 65, 66 over the weekend. He's in a tough spot to win his second major of the year, but still playing. It's still a good week. I mean, if he finishes top 10 or top 5, that's still like it. It's funny how those standards are, for a guy like Haotong Li, top 5 is one of the best weeks of his life. Literally one of the best weeks of his life. For Rory, we go top 10. That's okay. It's just crazy that the standard that's set. And I mean, Haotong Li, let's see, he is official world golf ranking at 111. Data Golf has him at 156. I mean, the margin for those guys, I mean, about separated by about 150 players. It's so wide, yet it's also so small at the same time. But yeah, I mean, I don't really see anyone below this 5 under group other than Rory being a threat. And even then, this group at 5 under, they're going to have to shoot something insane either tomorrow or Sunday. And you need to hope Scheffler has at least one round either at even or over par. And if he's at even or over par, it's probably due to the weather, which means you are probably dealing with the weather as well. And that's the thing about the Open that is so compelling. Remember last year in the third round, I mean, it was just awful, awful conditions, but everyone was out there that had to deal with it. It's not like just the top guy had to deal with terrible weather. Everyone had to deal with the bad weather. So that's what makes chasing so hard. And it's why I always say you need to do as much as you can on the first 2 days for sure, but also on Saturday to try and ease the pressure off on Sunday. Because when you try and put everything you've got into a Sunday round, you usually end up playing some of your worst golf because you're trying to force it. And it's why we see guys from 20th or 25th place or even worse have a crazy low round because they've got nothing to lose. They know they can't win the championship. Well, all of a sudden they shoot like what Haotong Li did, shoot 63. You throw something way low and you never know. Hey, maybe I could get into a playoff by shooting a crazy low number. It's happened before, but it's unlikely. Just again, due to pretty much the weather is the same for everyone. Obviously, over there it can change in an instant, but interesting. Couple days ahead should be a lot of fun. But yeah, I don't see a whole lot of. I think it's a 4-horse race, and it's like I said. I think all 4 guys at the top can contend. I mean, even throwing Haotong Li in there. Tomorrow we'll learn a lot, but the fact that he slept on the lead, and he goes out and birdies 2, birdies 5, birdies 6. He's only had 1 bogey in his first 36 holes, and I think what he did today is more impressive than what he did yesterday because more cameras are going to be following him, more galleries going to be following him. He's going to have a couple more questions in his post-round press conference than he did yesterday. He knows he's going to have more people looking at him, and he ends up backing up what he did yesterday. So that's why I'm going to throw him in the mix. I think he is still a legitimate threat to contend. If I had to rank the top 4 guys as to who I think would win it, he's at number 4. But he's in a lot better spot than the guys at 5 under or 4 under or anyone else below that. So, it's like whenever you have those greatest of all time debates, you end up, I guess, knocking some of the other, greatest of all time, or when you're asked to do your Mount Rushmore and you have to, for some reason, the conversation turns negative. It's like, well, you're still in the conversation for the greatest of all time. That's the same thing for Haotong Li. He's still in the conversation, and I think there's going to be people that will write off Haotong Li. But like I said, tomorrow we'll learn a lot about can he continue this great play? And being in the second to last pairing, that's a little bit different than being in the middle of the field in the second round. So there is going to be more added pressure, but if there's a quote nobody that could make a run at it, I would I like my chances with Haotong Li. But Brian Harman, been there, done that. Scotty Scheffler, it seems inevitable that he will be there and do that at an Open. Matt Fitzpatrick, he does know how to win against Scheffler. Remember, they went toe-to-toe in 2022 at the U.S. Open. Fitzpatrick came out on top. And it's interesting, they end up dueling here again in the final pairing 3 years later, both on very different paths to getting to this place. Fitzpatrick, pretty dark places that his game ended up taking him to. Whereas Scheffler has risen to number one player in the world. And at the time when Fitzpatrick won, they both had one major. Fitzpatrick still at one. Scheffler now at 3, trying to grab number 4. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the cut line. Again, shouted out Bryson earlier. That's just a hell of a performance to go out there and not just, the way that it happened yesterday without making a birdie, and it looked like he was dead in the water. And then it come out today. Mighty, mighty impressive stuff to hear him and see him do that. A couple of unique quotes from Bryson today. Really liked what he was talking about as far as here. Let me just dive right into it. He said, "What did you tell yourself last night when the breaks don't go your way?" His response: "I want to go home, but I woke up this morning and said, you know what? I can't give up. My dad always told me never to give up. Just got to keep going, and that's what I did today. I was proud of the way I fought back. Really persevered through some emotionally difficult moments." And to hold myself together and not get pissed and slam clubs and throw things and all like I wanted to, I was very proud of myself. He should. I think that's pretty incredible. It's an interesting insight too, because that's the real Bryson. At least that's how I perceive it. That's how Bryson DeChambeau is, and for him to bounce back like that, yeah, that's really impressive. He could have packed it up and just mailed it in. But no, he went out there playing as if he was in contention and turned in one of the best rounds of the week so far. Not just due to the circumstances, but numerically, it's one of the best rounds of the week. Other than Scotty Scheffler going berserk today, he would have the round of the week so far. So he's also talking about practicing with a different ball. Because he's talked about in the past where how he hits it so high and he hits it with so much spin that it kind of gets lost in the wind. So he's talking about maybe playing with a different ball this week that could end up helping him. Yeah, Rory had some quotes that there's nothing that interesting. You know what? Actually, he did have something interesting to say. He said he was asked about in 2019. He felt like the fans. He said you felt like in 2019 you let the fans down by not making the cut. What does it mean for you to be here in front of the people who followed you your whole career? And then Rory ends up saying, "I let myself down more than I let the fans down. It was a hard pill to swallow." He said he was talking to Tim Barter at Sky Sports, and it was 20 years ago. They played the North of Ireland here. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be coming back as a Grand Slam champion with the support of a nation behind me trying to win an Open championship. I count myself very grateful and very lucky that I'm in this position, and I'm excited for the weekend. And he also talks about I've been somewhat close to my best over the first 2 days in little bits here and there. I'm going to need to have it all under control and have it all firing over the weekend to make a run. So some interesting quotes from Rory. Seems like he feels really good about his game and the fact that he might have his A game if he can harness it all together and put it all together for the weekend, which is why he has that capability to go bananas at any given moment and just shoot some crazy low number. I wouldn't be surprised if he does something like that once again here at the Open. Okay, let's take a look at the cut line, and then then we'll get out of here for the day and get ready for moving day tomorrow. But before then, Joaquin Niemann shoots 74 to miss the cut, bogey the 13th, the 15th, and the 18th. That'll be a sleepless, might be a sleepless flight back home for Niemann, thinking about that finish. So he misses the cut again. Similar thoughts I've echoed this year. I don't see him as a top 10 player in the world. And another disappointing major season for Joaquin Niemann. Jason Day misses the cut at 2 over. Ben Griffin misses the cut. He tried to make a run on the back 9, but ends up missing the cut by 1. Zach Johnson missed the cut. Siwoo Kim missing. Let's see. A couple of other guys. Tom Kim. Oh, boy. Doubled the 18th to miss the cut by 2 shots. Had he had parred it, he's in on the number. And again, Tom Kim is another one of these guys that he should have. He has the talent, but it has just been a horrible year for him. I mean, there's no way to there's no other way to look at it. He's had a terrible year. And he's sitting on the outside of the FedEx Cup playoffs right now. I mean, that is extremely disappointing for a player of his talent. And he's going to go home without having a good finish at the major. Last time he had a good finish was the 2023 Open. Finished T2, 6 shots behind Brian Harman. But since then, T30, T26, T26, missed cut, T52, 71st, T33, and then missed cut. So, I mean, for Tom Kim, I mean, he's great at the President's Cup. He's a great character, only 23 years old. Sounds like he's got a lot of maturing to do before he, I think, gets himself into that next level of greatness as to where he probably should be. But I mean, again, he's only 23, so he's got a long way to go. But let's see if he can. I think this between now and the Masters, I would think for him, his biggest gain has to be maturity. And I think once he grows into that, that's where we could start to see him performing better at majors, perhaps winning 1 or 2. But he's got a long way to go, I think, before he gets to that point. A couple of other guys, Patrick Cantlay, he's been a talk of perhaps being a captain's pick. I think that's a stretch now for Cantlay to be a captain's pick. He's 14th right now, but I don't know. That's going to be a tough guy to. It's tough to leave him off because he's so good at the Ryder Cup. But how do you pick him when, again, he also hasn't had his best stuff? He's had an up and down year, finished T4 at the Truist, T5 at the Genesis, but didn't have a good showing at the Rocket Classic, missed the cut at the US Open, missed the cut at the PGA Championship. So it's been a very up and down year. And when Cantlay's on, he's one of those guys where you go, yeah, how could you not have him on the Ryder Cup team? But when he's off, that's when you start to go buddy ball and all that stuff. So, but he misses the cut by 2. There's a couple of other guys that missed the cut. Cam Young, just another disappointing week from Cam Young missing the cut. Minwoo Lee missing the cut as well. He shot 5 over, I should say, in his 2 rounds. Patrick Reed had a really difficult round yesterday, shot 77. Came back today by shooting 70. Was actually 3 under on the back 9, but had a rough start. he misses the cut, probably shot himself out of a spot on the Ryder Cup. I'd be really shocked if he ends up making the Ryder Cup team. I mean, he'd have to probably rattle off like 2 straight wins on LIV. And it'd have to be some convincing wins, I think, for him to be back in the mix for a Ryder Cup spot. But don't think we will be seeing Patrick Reed in September. Brooks Koepka and Collin Morikawa each missed the cut at 7 over. Disappointing weeks there. Adam Scott missing the cut at 9 over, had a brutal round today. Doubled the 3rd, doubled the 11th, doubled the 16th, shot 79, was actually 1 over after yesterday, but really brutal round there. So, last one, Cam Smith. Talked about him yesterday. He had a rough start to his championship where he duck hooked one out of almost out of bounds. It was so bad it actually ended up being okay. Shot 72, and he comes back with a 7 over 78. The downfall of Cam Smith is, I mean, it makes you go, what happened? Like, what happened after the Open Championship to where, I mean, he's playing some pretty bad golf. I mean, T7 at LIV Spain last week, had a T5 at Mexico City. He did place second in the BMW Australian PGA Championship. Also placed tied for second at an Asian Tour event. But you look at what he's done in the majors since he won. It was T34 at the Masters, a T9 at the PGA, solo 4th at the US Open, T33 at the Open Championship, tied for 6th at the Masters, and then since then, it has been awful. T63, T32, missed cut, missed cut, missed cut, missed cut, missed cut. And he's the only player that has played in all 4 majors this year and has missed the cut in all 4 majors. That is that's a pretty eye-opening stat. Just pulling up who had that stat just to make sure I give them credit. Friday Golf had that one. So Cam Smith, only player out of everyone to play in all 4, miss all 4 cuts at the majors. From Jamie Kennedy, players who made the cut in all 4 majors: Scotty Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, JJ Spawn. All 3 guys have won majors already. Xander, Jon Rahm, Victor Hovland, Tyrrell Hatton, Matt Fitzpatrick, Harris English, Mav McNeely, Sam Burns, Aaron Rai, Corey Connors, Brian Harman, Daniel Berger, and Rasmus Højgaard. So it seems like the formula this year is make the cut at all 4, and you might end up with a major. All 3 guys that have won a major already, of course, were on that list. Perhaps another one out there, and even guys that haven't, like Brian Harman, Matt Fitzpatrick, in the top 3. In the mix, they've played well all year long. That kind of consistency is what I've talked about before. Get yourself in the top 10. Get yourself in the top 5. You might end up winning one of these majors just because you play well and it's your week, or the rest of the field crumbles around you. It's what happened with Scotty Scheffler at the PGA Championship. Perhaps it's what will happen again this week. But as far as the championship goes for the weekend, like I said earlier, I think it's a 4-horse race. The guys at 5 under or below, they're going to have to play. They're going to have to play their nuts off the next 2 weeks, the next few days, I should say. I mean, you're going to have to really, you have to play pretty much flawless golf. And to do that on a links course, that is really difficult to do. So it seems like we're in a 4-horse race. There are guys in that 5, 4, and 3 under marks that could challenge, but it's up to Scotty Scheffler. If he is going to give away shots, okay, maybe there is a chance for some of those guys. But if he's going to continue to shoot, like sleepwalk his way to a 68, and then the sleeping giant wakes up for a 64, it's over. If he ends up if he plays his B game, he wins his championship. Scotty Scheffler is going to have to lose the championship, I think, for someone, unless Matt Fitzpatrick, Brian Harman, or Haotong Li have like shoot like 65 over the weekend. Like they have like a historic weekend. I think it'll be more of Scotty Scheffler giving away the championship than anything. Could be completely wrong. And if it comes Sunday and there's a different outcome and I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to admit it. But it seems like Scotty Scheffler's in full control. He's going to have to give it away, or someone is going to have to do something heroic / maybe historical to take it away from him. But either way, it'll be a fun weekend. We'll be back at it again tomorrow afternoon once the third round concludes. One last thing. I do want to say the RNA is outstanding. The world feed, so good to hear. Graham McDowell, I don't know if you've heard much of Graham McDowell on the broadcast. He has been phenomenal. And I think NBC needs to just look. I know he's on Live and NBC carries the PGA Tour. I wouldn't care. I would open up. I'd give him a blank check and say, fill it out. We need you in the lead chair. He is so good, so insightful. Mixes in some humor there. He has been, it's similar to like when Tony Romo for the NFL, people were kind of questioning like Tony Romo's going to be on CBS to replace Phil Simms. Like that just what that he didn't say anything in his press conferences. But he ended up being really, really good. And, now, NFL fans hate everything. So, I mean, there's no pleasing him. But he came out of the gates on fire, and it was kind of unexpected. And sometimes you get that from those guys like Johnny Miller. How many years is Johnny Miller so great with NBC? And, NBC, look, I think the individuals on NBC are good. Together, they're not. There's something off with their chemistry. Because, Dan Hicks has been doing it forever. He's still really good. Mike Tirico is awesome. Mike Tirico, I actually wish there was more of Mike Tirico on the NBC broadcast. But I think Bones is tremendous. I think that is a home run that they found with Bones on the course. But as far as the rest of the broadcast goes, Smiley Kaufman's good. I like what Smiley has to say on the course, and he did throw in an F-bomb today during the broadcast, and it sounds like he thought his mic was cut. Like from what he said on his video, he posted this to X, that he got there was like a noise in his headset that pretty much is like, you're off the air. And it sounds like he was in the middle of talking and then boom, gets this noise like, hey, your mic's been cut. And he was like, oh, what in the world? But instead he goes, and lets it fly. Cause he was trying to fix his pack and figure out like, did I unplug something or did something get cut? Just one of those honest moments. And he made an apology. I don't think he should have made the apology. I think it was just one of those, hey, live TV. It happens sometimes where the technology just wasn't synced up. But I like Smiley. I like Bones. Dan Hicks and Mike Tirico are always great. Everyone else, I think I think NBC needs to really, really look at redoing their broadcast from that point. Guys are stepping over each other, and I didn't understand the Kevin Kisner hire to begin with. I thought I was just kind of like, let's see, maybe this turns into something great. I think he would be, I think he needs a lot more reps before being in the lead chair. I think he's probably 2 or 3 years away. I think he's got good insight. but he needs some work. And some of the other guys, it's just not good. The broadcast is just not good. And it's like I said at the beginning, the individuals, I think, work. They just haven't meshed together well, and it's been very clunky. The U.S. Open was awful. The last couple of years for NBC have been pretty rough, and CBS has done an amazing job. I mean, top to bottom, their broadcasts are fantastic. So, I mean, you almost kind of groan every time NBC has a golf broadcast. You're like, oh boy, it's going to be a rough one this week. And we'll see. Next time CBS has a broadcast, it's like a breath of fresh air. You're like, oh, this is how golf is supposed to be broadcasted. So, I mean, those are my thoughts. I know it's pretty candid thoughts, but I mean, this is how I feel. And hopefully the broadcast it's not going to get better this weekend. So I'm going to keep tuning into the World Feed. Thank you, RNA, for making the World Feed available. It is awesome to listen to. And, man, it's great to watch. And it's also interesting to hear different perspectives from, we hear the same people, for the most part. So hearing other guys from different parts of the world on different broadcasts, it's great. But yeah, like I said, Graham McDowell should be in the lead cheer for NBC. I think Phil Mickelson would be great. I don't see that happening, but hopefully Graham McDowell does, because that man, he has been. I mean, other than like the top 4 guys on the scoreboard, I think Graham McDowell's had about as good of a week as anybody. So really interesting stuff. You can tune in and watch and hear Graham McDowell give his analysis. I would, because it's worth it. All right, that'll do it for today. Back at it again tomorrow in the afternoon. Follow us on X at YourESN, Facebook, Eli Sports Network. More coverage to come from the PNGA Men's Amateur Championship round of 32 and round of 16, wrapping up today. Quarters and semis are tomorrow. Been writing about that on our website, elisportsnetwork.com. You already know where the YouTube channel is because you're watching the video. Drop in any comments that you have. Who do you think's going to win? Who do you think? By how much? What do you think the score is going to be? I had it at 13 under. As it stands right now, I think that is a pretty safe bet. I mean, Fitzpatrick would have to play 4 under for the weekend. Harman and Lee would have to play 5 under for the weekend. Everyone else, it's nearly out of reach. So I think that's a safe number for Scheffler to get at. But who knows? What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. Hope you have a great and safe Friday night. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon to recap the 3rd round of the 153rd Open Championship. Thanks for some of your time, and we'll see you tomorrow.